Hello, and thank you for showing interest in HRM Planning Application 2025-02216. This presentation will provide additional information about Halifax Regional Municipality's planning process and the development that has been proposed for 620 Portland Street in Dartmouth. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. HRM acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. We would also like to affirm that we are in the decade for people of African descent. African Nova Scotians are a distinct founding people in our community who have been a key part of Nova Scotian culture and history. We acknowledge that African teachings, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our community. The purpose of this public consultation is information sharing. For HRM staff and the applicant to share information with you about the proposal, but more importantly, for you, the public, to comment and share your feedback with us. Please note that the feedback provided will inform the process and will form part of the public record. A summary of the response received will be included in the staff report to Community Council, and no decisions about the proposal are being made at this stage. My name is Megan Backus, and I'm a planner who works at HRM and has been assigned this application. My role is to manage the application through the planning process and its various stages, such as this one, the public engagement stage. I'm also the main point of contact for the applicant and general public regarding this application. Lastly, I draft reports, negotiate with the applicant, and make a recommendation to Community Council for their consideration on whether to approve or refuse this application. And now for a bit about the development proposal. The applicant for this case is ZAP Consulting on behalf of the property owners, and they are seeking permission to enter into a development agreement to construct a mixed-use building at 620 Portland Street in Dartmouth, more commonly known as the site of the old Steak and Stein restaurant. A conceptual drawing of the proposed building has been included on the right, as seen from Portland Street. To get a closer look at the proposed building, you can visit the application's webpage, which will be shared at the end of this presentation. Shown here is the subject property, with property boundaries shown in red. The site has street frontage on Portland Street and Norm Newman Drive between Baker Drive and Eisner Boulevard. It is just north of Russell Lake. The site is approximately 0.7 hectares in area. This slide provides information on the neighborhood surrounding the subject property. The boundaries of the property are shown here in red. To the south of the property, across Norm Newman Drive, is Russell Lake and Russell Lake Park. To the east is a car dealership and car detailing business. To the west is a gas station and commercial strip plaza. And to the north and northeast, across Portland Street, is primarily low-density residential homes and a handful of standalone commercial buildings. As previously stated, the applicant is requesting to enter into a development agreement to allow for one mixed-use building at 620 Portland Street, Dartmouth. The major aspects of the proposal are as follows. The mixed-use building would contain residential units, which would be on the stories colored light blue in the image on the right, 2 stories of internal vehicle parking on the stories that are colored gray, and ground floor commercial space on the portion of the ground floor that is facing Portland Street, which is colored orange in the image on the right. The maximum building height permitted on the site would be 9 stories. The development would be required to conform with all relevant requirements of the Suburban Housing Accelerator Land Use Bylaw, which includes provisions for building siting, size, design, amenity space, landscaping, signage, and more. A digital copy of this land use bylaw can be found at the link shown on the slide. Two variances from land use bylaw requirements have been requested by the applicant and are currently being reviewed by HRM staff. First, they have requested to reduce the side step back minimum from 2.5 meters to 0 meters. If the development were required to meet land use bylaw requirements without a variance, the portions of the building shown in dark blue on the image on the slide would have to be removed in order to create a 2.5 meter step back on each side of the building. Secondly, they have requested to increase the maximum building depth from 64 meters to 67 meters, which is the building dimension shown in red. When a planning application is made, it is often enabled by planning policies, meaning that it was envisioned that development would happen here, and rules and guidelines were written to help shape what that development would look like. Planning in HRM consists of 3 levels of documents. It starts with the regional plan, which is very high level, and it identifies where population growth should occur and where investment of services like transit, piped water, and sewer should occur. The second level of planning policies is the community plan. This focuses on specific geographic areas and gets more detailed on what type of development should happen where. Often, planning applications which require approval by council are enabled in this plan. For this application, the applicable community plan is the Dartmouth Municipal Planning Strategy. The third layer and most detailed planning document we have is the Land Use Bylaw. This outlines specific zoning and regulations that don't require special approval by council. If you meet the rules, you can go and get a permit without having to engage the public. The land use bylaw for this area is the Dartmouth Land Use Bylaw. I've mentioned previously that the applicant is applying for a development agreement, and you may be wondering what that is. A development agreement is a legal agreement between a property owner and the municipality to ensure that a site is developed in a particular manner. It's a mechanism to control development of a property or area and will specify the standards and conditions that the development must adhere to. This slide provides an overview of the policy and bylaw context for the subject property. The property falls within the Dartmouth Municipal Planning Strategy and the Dartmouth Land Use Bylaw. The property is fully serviced by municipal sewer and water. It is currently zoned C3, which is the general business zone. It is designated C, or commercial, and is within the Morris-Russell Lake Secondary Plan. The existing use on the site is a vacant building, which was previously the Steak and Stein restaurant. We are going to be using policies SA2B, SA3B, SA4B, G15, and G15A from the regional plan in order to consider this application. This application is being considered under new policy within the Regional Municipal Planning Strategy for suburban transit-oriented opportunity sites. These policies came into effect on January 31st, 2026. HRM is currently undertaking the Suburban Community Planning Program, which involves a comprehensive planning process to develop a vision and future land use structure for the suburban area. Given the present housing shortage, the urgent priority is to increase the supply of safe, sustainable, and affordable housing. It is reasonable to provide additional opportunity to allow those residential or mixed-use developments to proceed where they are aligned with the Suburban Community Planning Vision and 18 core concepts as outlined in the regional plan, and are ready to develop. Proposed developments may be considered by development agreement where certain criteria and requirements can be met, including accelerated project start and completion timelines. The first policy is SA-2B, which determines whether a property is eligible to be a suburban transit-oriented opportunity site. In order to be eligible, the property must be designated urban settlement and not be within the regional center or suburban housing accelerator municipal plan area. Must not be zoned industrial, military, park, transportation reserve, utility, water supply, floodplain, crown land, agricultural, and any land zoned to reflect ownership by a conservation organization. Must be within an 800-meter watershed of, in this case, a planned bus rapid transit route, but can also be the Mill Cove Ferry Terminal, the Downsview, Cobequid, or Sackville Transit Terminals. Must be no larger than 2 hectares in area, must not result in the demolition of an existing building containing 3 dwelling units or more, and must have a complete application submitted to the municipality before the first notice of the intention of council to adopt the suburban plan. Policy SA-3B outlines the considerations council must make when reviewing a proposed development of a suburban transit-oriented opportunity site. Council shall consider that the density and built form of the building considers walking distance to transit, local context, and transitions in height and massing to low-rise residential neighborhoods. That the development site design supports necessary infrastructure upgrades, and whether any on or off-site infrastructure improvements are necessary in order to integrate the development into the surrounding area. They must consider any requested variances to the land use bylaw that have been requested by the applicant. They must consider whether a mix of uses are proposed in the building, and if ground floor commercial or institutional space is included in order to support local services and employment uses. They must consider whether there is a mix of land uses on the site, what those ground floor uses are, what landscaping has been proposed, and if pedestrian connectivity has been considered for the site. They must also consider the commencement and completion timelines for the project. According to the policy, the project commencement date shall not exceed 18 months from the approval of the development agreement, with one opportunity for a one-time extension not exceeding 6 months, and that the project completion date shall not exceed 3 years from the date of commencement. Policy SA-4B outlines building height, size, and other form requirements criteria based on the property's proximity to bus rapid transit routes and whether it abuts any existing low-density residential areas. In this case, the property fronts on Portland Street, which is a proposed bus rapid transit route, and it is approximately 120 meters from the proposed Portland and Woodlawn bus rapid transit stop, so it is considered near the route. The property does not abut any low-density residential areas. Therefore, council can consider a building that meets the tall mid-rise built form requirements of the Suburban Housing Accelerator land use bylaw. The maximum height permitted for a tall mid-rise building is 9 stories. Along with built form requirements, this policy requires all Suburban Housing Accelerator land use bylaw provisions to be met, unless otherwise varied by the development agreement. This would include requirements for landscaping, signage, bonus zoning, commercial parking, amenity spaces, and more. Policy G15 is a general implementation policy that applies to all development agreements that are considered through the regional municipal planning strategy. In considering development agreement applications, HRM shall consider any financial impacts to HRM and the adequacy of municipal services, impact to designated historic sites, controls on the building's siting and massing, traffic generation, access and egress from the site, parking, open storage, and signage, the grades, geological conditions, location of any water courses or susceptibility to flooding on the site, as well as relevant policies from any of the HRM priority plans. Policy G15A states that for multi-unit residential buildings that begin construction before April 1st, 2028, there shall be no requirement related to the unit mix of the proposed buildings and for more than 20% ground floor commercial space. This means that HRM staff are not able to include requirements related to the number of studio, 1, 2, or 3 bedroom units within the building. Staff also cannot require any more than 20% of ground floor commercial space in the development agreement for this proposal. This slide outlines the different stages an application goes through in the development agreement and land use bylaw amendment planning process. After staff received the application, an initial review was completed before moving into public consultation, which is the stage we are in now. After the public consultation stage is complete, there will be further revisions and refinement to the proposal based on your comments and any outstanding feedback from previous internal review. Then staff will prepare a recommendation report to Community Council, who will make their decision on the proposal. After their decision is made, there is a 14-day appeal period for the application. Thank you very much for listening and showing interest in this planning application. We ask that you visit the application webpage highlighted in orange to view the additional materials submitted by the applicant, which go into further detail on the proposal. We request that if you do wish to provide feedback or have any questions about the proposal, to please contact me, Megan Backus, either by email or phone. My contact information can be found on the slide. Public engagement will be open until March 5th, 2025. Enjoy the rest of your day.